Another alert now, right now in Capitol Hill behind me. We're awaiting a hearing with testimony by the brand new Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly. Border security, immigration, and certainly the president's travel ban certain to be hot topics there. The chairman of that committee is Mike McCaul, and I talked to him a bit earlier this morning about all of that. Chairman McCaul, thank you. Nice to see you in person here in Washington, D.C. This travel ban, can you win on it?
I think that's going to be the big issue. At the hearing today, we have Secretary Kelly testifying for the first time before Congress. He'll be questioned on the executive order itself. I personally think, as a policy matter, it mirrors a lot of what we had done and pursued in the Congress previously in terms of the visa security bill, which laid out the 7 countries that passed, and President Obama signed it into law, to the Syrian refugee ban that we had, the pause that we had on the immigration program there. Also a memo that Giuliani and Mukasey, Attorney General Mukasey and I sent to then candidate Trump to back off this Muslim ban because we thought that was unconstitutional, and rather look at higher vetting to high-threat areas to keep out the bad guys into the United States.
You said Muslim ban. You specifically state in your opening statement in the hearing today that it's not a Muslim ban.
That it is not a Muslim
that.
ban. It is not. And they took the 7 countries that we passed into law. President Obama signed it into law under our visa security bill that came out of my committee to ramp up the visa vetting process. And, you know, these are basically unstable countries, countries where ISIS is prevalent. And it could be expanded, of course, if needed. But I think this is a sound policy. I think the question at the hearing is going to be, you know, what happened with the implementation here and the messaging? And I think there were some problems with the implementation of this executive order that will be addressed. I think General Kelly actually addressed a lot of these by waiving lawful permanent residents who were banned initially from coming back into the country.
So that was an amendment that was made in the initial ruling. You're going to say today a law based on risk, not on religion. That's part of your message. President Trump tweeted this on screen now. The threat from radical Islamic terrorism is very real. Just look at what is happening in Europe and the Middle East. Courts must act fast! Exclamation point. You say they've done 2 things, a border surge and a pause in the immigration and the refugees coming from overseas. If the question is national security, isn't this also a question of time? In other words, when he says act fast, how fast is that? Can you define that?
Well, it is a question of time. I mean, we've seen the terror threat go up, not down. These are countries we've seen, you know, the foreign fighters come out of. You know, this is something that, as every day goes by, I think the danger to the American people rises exponentially. So I think it's important and imperative the courts act fast on this executive order. And if there are fixes to be made, I do think, again, Secretary Kelly made the critical fix here, and that was to not ban people with green cards from coming back into the country. I think he fixed that. The policy is very sound. I think it's more, again, the implementation and the messaging of it.
How long have you known Secretary Kelly?
For a very long time.
Consider yourself close with him?
I do. I have a lot of faith in him. I trust him. He is, you know, was the head of Southcom, which was Latin America. He looked at transnational organizations and connections to terrorists in the Western Hemisphere. That's why the border surge EO is important as well. He also was a commander in Iraq and dealt with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, you know, up front. Gave a tremendous speech, you know, moving speech on when 2 Marines were killed, and his son was killed as well.
Yeah, quite a sacrifice. So the hearing begins in 1 hour. What do you think the viewer will learn from his testimony today?
Well, my hope is, and I've sat down with him in advance to educate the American people as to what this executive order does, what it doesn't do. It's not a Muslim ban. It's a higher vetting and high-threat country executive order is what it is, to keep out dangerous terrorists into the United States. And so I'm hopeful that will happen. Of course, there will be a lot of drama at this hearing. We will have protesters, and of course, the other side of the aisle, I think there'll be a lot of fireworks.
Okay, we'll be here to watch it. Thank you, sir. Chairman McCaul here in studio in Washington, D.C. Thanks.